Welcome to this Getting Ready video in the Everything You Need to Know About Grant Writing series. The video will guide you through everything you need in preparation for writing a grant application. And so you might ask, well, why do you need to apply for a grant anyway? You might be a local organisation who wants to apply for funding to run a local event to engage with people in your community. Maybe you want to revegetate a local creek, or you're a sporting organisation wanting to provide some leadership programs for young athletes in the organisation. This video will help to get you prepared with everything you need to get started. So the sorts of things it will cover is the information you need to complete an application. Before you start writing your grant, you'll need to find out about the funding body. Things such as who are they? What projects have they funded in the past? And do they have priority areas for funding? For example, quick response grants, health, arts or community events. Funding bodies will have clear guidelines setting out what will and won't be funded. These guidelines are driven by their specific organisational goals and priorities. The closer you can align your grant application and the needs to your organisation's goals and priorities, the higher the likelihood your grant will be successful. You can check out their website, read their funding guidelines, talk to a member of the grants team. Then you'll know if you're eligible to apply for a grant and if the project fits their organisational priorities. As an example, let's look at Nillumbik Grant Council guidelines. This council has a clear focus on areas for the community support grant. They clearly state that there are 3 focus areas: community, Indigenous and youth. So already we know that your project needs to fit into one or more of these categories. The document then goes on to list what can be funded and outlines who and what groups are eligible and what makes a project ineligible. And the link for that is on the council website. If you want to review the council plan to better understand their overview, you can go to the council's homepage and type in the council plan in the search function and click on strategies, policies, plans and legislation. You'll find the most current plan there. As I've said, one of the great ways to understand your fit with a funder is to talk with the grants team. And today we're fortunate enough to have Kirsty McKenzie, who is the Grants Officer at the Nillumbik Shire Council. Kirsty is joining us to talk about the Council's priorities, Nillumbik's grants program, and what they're looking for when reviewing applications. So welcome, Kirsty. Before we start getting into the detail, can you tell us a bit about what kind of grants are available?
Thanks, Jenny. Council provides a number of grant opportunities throughout the year. Open all year until the fund is depleted, we have our quick response grant of up to $500 per project to support community groups and organisations with emerging or unexpected needs and opportunities. This grant aims to fill a gap in funding for community groups requiring assistance outside the annual and biannual grant timelines. Twice a year, we offer Council's community support grant of up to $3,000 for community, youth and Indigenous projects that will enhance the social, cultural and environmental wellbeing of Nillumbik residents and foster and strengthen community involvement and participation in community-led initiatives. Annually, Council offers the Arts and Cultural Development Grant of up to $5,000 to fund projects that support artists and local community groups to enhance and strengthen their own neighbourhoods and townships through arts and cultural initiatives, as well as our Community Event Grant to assist event organisers in the facilitation and delivery of events across Nillumbik Shire by providing financial support to events that are fun, safe, sustainable, accessible and inclusive for all. In addition, Council annually provides small grants to support local applicants to participate in the 16 Days of Activism, Seniors Week, International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Intersexism and Transphobia, International Day of People with Disability, Seniors Festival and Youth Week. And in any given year, one-off grants may become available, such as business, environment or festive grants.
Thanks for that, Kirsty. Well, there's quite a few grants are available and a broad range of community organisations who can possibly apply for those. So some wonderful opportunities. We have a few questions for you that are sure to be of interest as people are preparing to apply for their grants. So the first question is, can people discuss their project ideas with you before they start writing their grant application?
Absolutely. We strongly recommend applicants contact council officers managing the grants. Staff can give guidance on eligibility, comment on the development of projects, and provide support with the application process. A phone call may save applicants a lot of work and establish a relationship with the grant-making staff.
That's a wonderful chance for people who, especially people who haven't written grants before, to have a chat with you. So the second question is, what makes a successful grant application? Can you give us some recent examples?
Okay, well, the best kind of grant applications are ones that are stimulated by an idea rather than applications that are stimulated by the availability of a grant. Strong projects have clear aims and objectives, a clear timeline, an understanding of what success will look like and how it will be measured, a clear budget, and captures the voices of their beneficiaries. At Council, when assessing applications, we prioritise ideas and solutions that are community-led, will have immediate impact for the community, will have the potential to continue to provide a positive impact beyond the funding, a brand new or an expansion of existing work, and presently can be delivered no matter what stage of coronavirus restrictions apply. In the most recent round of the Nillumbik Community Fund, Council has supported the creation of a yarning circle in the grounds of St Margaret's Anglican Church with a brazier in the middle and seating. The circle will be used as an example of Indigenous decision making where all can participate respectfully by community and church groups. Also, a new public mural in Diamond Creek, headed by Araluan, to be multifaceted community public art project to promote social inclusion and develop new community connections, and the St Andrews Community Festival in 2021, which will be a community celebration with carnival-style entertainment, music, roving performances, market stalls, and food trucks.
Wow, some great projects there, isn't there, Kirsty?
Definitely. Council are very excited about them.
Okay, so your final question from us is, what are some of the common mistakes that you've seen in grant applications?
I think the main error that is made is not clearly answering the questions. Assessors pay careful attention to how applications measure up against the questions, which are formed to respond to the selection criteria. It is vital to provide a clear and brief overview of your project, namely, what are you planning to do, where are you planning to do it, how are you planning to do it, and who it will benefit.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us today, Kirsty. To sum up, the advice is, 1, talk to the grants officer and staff at council about your project idea. 2, respond to the needs of the community by involving them in the design of the project. And 3, overcome those common mistakes by preparing early and make sure that you're really clear about what it is you're going to do. Now that you're armed with some great tips, let's spend some time talking about what information you'll need to complete the grant application. Whether you're applying through the council or any other funding body, there's common information required by them all. It's worthwhile spending time to gather this information about your group and keeping it in a central location. This is what I would call your go-to list. So what do we recommend is included in your go-to list? Firstly, your group's name. That is exactly what your organisation is called, or its legal entity name. Sometimes we know our organisation by a shortened version of the real name. So it's really important that you have this right from the start. Next is our Australian business number, or ABN. And also after that, the legal status of your group. We sometimes don't have this information on hand, so an easy way to find out is to go to the Australian Business Register and search for your group either by name or your ABN. If your group is registered, you'll see lots of great information such as this example for the Diamond Creek Men's Shed. Listed here you'll find the entity name, the ABN status, the type of entity of your group, if you're registered for GST, and the main location of your business. Following up from this, you'll also be able to see if your group is a registered charity and is registered with the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission, the ACNC. There might be some other registered trading names that might surprise you that your organisation has used in the past. They would also be listed under here. If you have any charity tax concessions, and in particular the deductible gift recipient status or DGR status, this means that you can receive donations and issue a tax receipt that the donor can receive a tax deduction for. And importantly, you'll also be able to apply for grants from trusts and foundations that require you to have this special DGR status in order for them to grant you money. This is all really great information to know. Some groups that don't have an ABN enter into a partnership with an auspice organisation. If this is the case for your group, you'll need to provide the ABN or the auspice body for your grant application. The auspice body will be the banker, and I'll explain about the auspice in just a minute. Now you have worked out your legal status and whether you have an ABN, the other information on the go-to list are items such as the physical address of the organisation. Most grant bodies need to know this. The organisation's phone number. If you have an email address, and it's great to have a generic email address if possible, for example, info@yourgroupname.org.au or president.yourgroupname@gmail.com. An email address is easily accessed just in case the funder responds back to you by email. Next up is contact details for the person completing the application, and sometimes they'll want to know your position within your group. Your banking details are important to add. They need to be on hand for the group because if you receive the money, it will go into that bank account. And finally, you need all the insurance information, such as the name of your insurer and a copy of your certificate of insurance, which is quite often called the certificate of currency. So your go-to list is nearly complete. Other things that you might include are how many volunteers you have in your organisation, the sorts of groups that you service, who are your members, have you won any awards? Gather all of that information together so that you can put it together once and use it many times. You'll grow that list as you go. And so that's about it. And your go-to list is about complete. I mentioned an auspice body early, and for some it may be a term that you haven't come across before, some of that grant writing jargon. Let me explain in the funding context. An auspice is an organisation who manages grant funding on your behalf. I'll give you an example. A small community group who doesn't have an ABN may work together with a large not-for-profit organisation who is their auspice. The larger organisation will receive and manage the grant funding, and the community group undertaking the actual work for the project. If you work together with an auspice organisation, you'll need to enter an auspice in agreement with the auspice. You will also need to provide the ABN of the auspice on your grant application. However, in the event that neither your organisation or an auspice has an ABN, you will need to include a completed statement by supplier form with your grant application. For further information, you need to go and download the form from the ATO website that is up on the screen at the moment. Now that you have all of that sorted, there's nothing worse than losing your information halfway through your project and having to start from scratch. What if the person who has all of that information heads off overseas? Well, it's useful to consider it here. What will happen if your key person is out of action for any reason? Who can take over their role quickly? And can they access information they need to keep your project on track? Having a clear process of where your information is and who can access it is really crucial for grant writing and applications and running your projects. So before I wrap up this Getting Ready video in the Everything You Need to Know About Grant Writing series, let's just review what we've covered so far. We've identified the need for information for your application, how to identify your legal status and all of those things such as your ABN, whether you're registered with the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission, and whether you have the deductible gift recipient status. We've heard from the grants team about the grants process at Nillumbik Shire Council and some tips and hints for successful grant writers. Also, don't forget to organise a generic email account to make successful planning easy. We've looked at best practice for storage information and access. Most importantly, don't forget to read the Council's guidelines about the key areas and the eligibility requirements. Now that you have your key information at hand, it's time to put together the project plan. And that's the next video in the series.